Hello, class. Last lecture, we covered topics like what is anthropology? In short, it is the comprehensive study of humankind. We use American style anthropology's four field approach: biological, linguistic, cultural, and archaeological. For this class, we're going to focus primarily on cultural and observing cultures through a virtual lens. We also talked about ethnography, which is observing people's behavior in their everyday settings, identifying patterns in their behavior, synthesizing your observations into generalizable descriptions, and communicating your findings. Last, we talked about netnography and how it's an adaptation to ethnography that focuses primarily on lived experiences through social media platforms, and how your research will focus on this netnographic approach. For this lecture, we'll start honing in on picking a field site for you to conduct your netnographic research. We'll take a look at ethnographic sites students in the past have studied, advice from students past, cover the rules of thumb for choosing a site, discuss some of the characteristics to keep in mind while choosing your site, and go over your Journal 2 assignment and Netnographic assignment 2. In the past, we had the luxury of going to a physical space to study human behavior in their microcultures. Here are a few examples of places that students had picked: the E-Games Arena on campus, Cape's Bingo Hall, various restaurants, tattoo shops, and gyms, to name a few. Since we have to modify our approach to look at a microculture through a virtual landscape, we may need to get a little creative. Take the E-Games Arena, for example. A student conducted a project looking at human behavior in a physical space that projects its participants into a virtual one. Instead, if you have access to an online multi-person game, you could conduct your study of one of those. But you could also do another social media platform. If politics interests you, you could follow someone's Twitter account who is a politician. You could look to see how many followers, how many people interact with one another through this medium, and how they interact. You could also take a closer look at the life of influencers or a YouTube personality. Specific Reddit pages, the possibilities are only limited by your imagination. But take some advice from past students. One student wrote, "This course is definitely a new look on schoolwork. It challenges you to create based off of what you perceive. If you pick an interesting enough topic, you will really enjoy this class. I chose a topic I had always wanted to analyze and something that I cared about. With that combination, I was able to produce work that was thoughtful and comprehensive. Using something I was interested in made this class a lot more meaningful. This meant I did not have to dread doing homework." Now, what in that paragraph stood out most to you? Well, if I were to impart a piece of advice from my end, it would be that I cannot overemphasize enough on picking a subject that is most interesting to you. Pretending to be interested in something over the long haul will really make this process painful. So here are a few rules of thumb for picking a site. 1. Learn and observe from a resting place, which shouldn't be too challenging since you are observing social media platforms. But just make sure during your observations that you're actually paying attention. I wouldn't think attempting to do this while trying to visit with friends would be very productive, so set aside a few hours a week to really take a closer look at a site that you choose. 2. People like to talk about what they know and do well, so find the knowledgeable members, not someone who just talks the most. The more you know, the more informants will tell you. Informants are the members who you will establish a rapport with, but we'll get into that a little bit more at a later time. In this case, we can use baseball as an example. Let's say you're a baseball expert. If someone were to tell you they liked baseball, but don't know the basics of the game or have ever even seen a game played, how far would that conversation go? This is like the same thing. Try your best to learn more about the specific topic your microculture is interested in. 4. This is what we talked about earlier. Pick something you're interested in, otherwise you will find the assignments quite challenging to complete. 5. Never misrepresent yourself to participants. It leads to bad data and hurt feelings, but even more so, it's unethical. And we'll get more into ethics in our next lecture. And 6, if you can, focus your research on a topic that can be helpful to people, including the folks you're studying. We'll get more into that when we do our research focus segment later in the course. Here are also a few characteristics of a site that you should take into consideration. 1. Pick something manageable. Instead of something general like all of Facebook or all of YouTube, pick something more specific. For example, my husband is part of an amateur mycology page on Facebook. Mycology is essentially the study of mushrooms. He interacts with many of the other members, some who enjoy hunting wild mushrooms and some who enjoy growing gourmet mushrooms. They swap photos or help one another identify various wild ones. There are also the administrators of the site, some of whom he suspects are actually scientifically renowned mycologists under the guise of an alias. In any event, there is really only so many people the human brain can really keep track of, so try to pick a site that will be easy to manage. Your site should be regular and routine. Will you be able to access it at all times? Social media makes it more available, but you may want to look for high traffic times or start noticing when people are more active on it. It should be social. When I say small, I'm not talking about solitaire. If you are only interacting with 1 or 2 people the entire time, you will find future assignments more difficult. Is your site easy to get to? Try to take into account your ability to access the internet. If you're using your phone and only have so much data, know that you'll need to spend a significant time observing your site. If you need to use the campus's resources, you will need to carve out some time to do this. Your site should be old and stable. If it is a new or fledgling social media platform, it might not catch on, or it might take years to do so. So choose something stable. Also, the people you will interact with on that platform should be current members, not former members. Their culture should be explicit, meaning you know what the topic is that the group is interested in. It should be open and not closed, meaning you do not have to use your hacking abilities to gain access into it. Non-ideological. For your own peace of mind, you do not need to observe a group who is bent on converting you to their ways or beliefs. Non-translational, meaning if you're needing to omit information in order to protect the image of various individuals in the group, then maybe another site is best. Make sure it's in a language you're comfortable using. If you're thinking about observing a platform in which all members are Spanish-speaking and you do not speak Spanish, then make your life easier and pick something else. Unfamiliar. Pick a site you're not familiar with, and when I mean that, you can use Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. Just pick something with a topic you're not currently involved in. Your observation skills are best when you're learning something new. If it is something you've already been involved in, then your future assignments will not be easier, but harder to complete. Try to choose something outside of your own social world, especially if your friends are involved or people you consistently interact with. They might get annoyed when you try to ask questions to complete your assignments. And last, 14 is non-negotiable. Your site needs to be safe for you and legal, so no black web stuff. You can find all these characteristics in your textbook on page 17 through 20, but your netnographic assignment will also have a list of these characteristics as well. Since we're talking about homework, let's discuss your journal and netnographic assignments. Journals, while they are really warm-ups these first couple weeks, will be your primary mode of data collection. I would suggest carving out time after you virtually observe your site to journal about your experience, although you can take notes on various thoughts and observations you have at the time as well. But this week's journal assignment is designed to further tailor your last week's assignment. Using your Cornell Notes template, list 3 site ideas that interest you most in your main points column, and list them in order of your preference. In the notes column, list any challenges or advantages you foresee studying at each site. Remember, the site you choose will be the site you focus on for the rest of this semester. After you complete your journal, which is just a way to help you brainstorm for your netnographic assignment, you will need to complete the netnographic assignment 2, survey of 3 sites. This is where you will formally submit your 3 sites for me to review and approve. Make sure to download the file attached and fill it out. You should make every effort to at least view or scan through your 3 virtual sites. If there is someone, an admin, you can chat with, let them know your intent. Tell them you're a student and you're taking this class, that you have to observe and interact with members to learn more about social interaction in the virtual landscape, that you'll be spending time over the next several weeks observing, chatting, taking notes, etc. Let them know it's for a school project and that you will do your best to avoid making anyone uncomfortable. If they have rules for the site, let them know you will adhere to them. Also, let them know you may need to conduct a few short interviews with various members. You will need to wait until this assignment is graded before choosing one of your 3 sites. I will review these as soon as possible and give you the go-ahead to choose one. Make sure to list 9 potential informants. They do not need to be specific names. You could use influencer, a YouTube username, or someone's gamer tag. It does not have to be specific at this point. Your journal and netnographic assignments will be due Sunday at midnight.